The gaming community rejoiced when Respawn was announced to be working on a single-player Star Wars game. A joy that was amplified by EA promising the game would feature no microtransactions. This video hopes to temper your expectation by explaining why you shouldn't take their word for it. These promises have been made before with other games, with the most recent example being Battlefield 5. Starting with Bad Company 2, the Battlefield franchise had a shameful legacy of trying to squeeze additional revenue from their consumers with pay-to-win microtransactions, on top of the $60 for the base game and $50 for the premium pass. We are referring to the shortcut kits of Battlefield 3, 4 and 1. Instead of grinding for days or even weeks to unlock the guns they wanted, players could instantly pay $10, $20, $40 or even $50 on one of these to skip the grind. Or at least part of it. Who designed a grind that players would want to skip? DICE, at the behest of EA. It's quite the racket. Sell a product with a problem, an intentionally incomplete experience, and sell the solution separately. Our analysis of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 explore how their progression systems are designed to be unquantifiable. If you've watched those videos, feel free to skip to the timestamp indicated on the screen. Or alternatively, keep watching to refresh your memory. Items and gear like weapons, attachments and gadgets could only be unlocked by completing a series of specific challenges involving tasks like killing enemies while swimming and getting a certain number of headshots with a designated weapon. This makes it impossible to calculate how much time you'll spend to unlock each weapon and attachment. Consequently, it is impossible to ascertain how much time you will save by buying these shortcut kits. Remember this issue of quantifying time saved. It will become relevant later. EA wasn't coy about what these shortcut kits were. It's almost impressive how brazen they were about selling pay-to-win advantages. To quote them directly, "With the air vehicle shortcut kit, you get immediate access to upgrades that improve the offensive and defensive capabilities of helicopters and jets." Whether you're new to Battlefield 4 or just want to make up for lost time, shortcut kits can help you go toe-to-toe with Battlefield veterans by instantly unlocking powerful gear and bonuses that would otherwise be obtained through play. It doesn't matter if you're transporting troops or dishing out destruction from above. These helicopter upgrades will improve your chances of survival. A few still downplay the impact this pay-to-skip arrangement has had on the series. It was more for new players to instantly skip the grind to be competitive with older players. While players who bought the game early on, or might have bought the game early in its life cycle, may have already unlocked these upgrades, this is by no means guaranteed, especially with the disaster that was Battlefield 4's launch. Battlefield 4 was plagued by glitches, performance issues and instability for months after its release, which seriously hampered players' ability to even play the game, let alone unlock anything. Furthermore, this shouldn't even matter. By EA's own admission, players with these upgrades had better chances of survival than those without. Newcomers who buy these shortcuts will have a huge advantage over newcomers who don't. That is pay to win. Period. This is particularly detestable in a full-price AAA title that costs $60 to begin with, in addition to a $50 premium pass. Sadly, the gaming community seems to have looked the other way, and even defend this practice when it's brought up. Nonetheless, EA must have felt they were flying too close to the sun by being so brazen, going by the more diplomatic description of Battlefield 1's shortcuts. It's the dawn of all-out war, so you'd better go in armed. So are the players who don't buy these shortcuts unarmed? Pedantry aside, Battlefield 1's shortcuts brought one change that could be argued made it an even worse proposition. Only base game progression items included. This shortcut kit does not contain items offered in future downloadable content, items added in expansion packs, content that must be unlocked through battle packs or promotional offer items. So how is this an ultimate shortcut? A few of Battlefield 4's shortcut kits were also constrained by a similar caveat. On one hand, this might mislead players who don't take the time to read the fine print. And on the other hand, this does ever so slightly mitigate the pay-to-win aspect by leaving a few items for the skippers to unlock. In either case, Battlefield 1's shortcuts commit two sins in one package: selling unfair advantages and misleading marketing. But, again, EA seems to have gotten away with it. At least, I couldn't find any complaints about it. Perhaps the uniqueness of Battlefield 1's setting helped divert consumers' attention away from its exploitative monetization. With Battlefield 5, however, EA must have felt they didn't quite have as much latitude after its woeful trailer alienated a significant portion of its fan base. That might be an understatement, considering they felt the need in June 2018 to make this promise. We are committed to making sure that you'll always be rewarded by playing the game. Players cannot pay to get any unfair gameplay advantages. Given EA's record and the catastrophic reveal of Battlefield 5, which was at the time very recent, this felt less like a genuine change of heart and more like a desperate bid to win their dissatisfied fans back. They even issued a diagram that made it clear the only items real-world money would unlock are cosmetics. How likely is it that a corporation like EA has sincerely reformed their ways right after a PR cataclysm? Was this their overdue admission of shortcuts enabling players to pay for unfair gameplay advantages? How likely was it that they had turned a new leaf with Battlefield 5? A leopard doesn't change its spots. This is EA we're talking about. Despite my skepticism, I held out hope that Battlefield 5's poor performance would keep EA keen on avoiding any further backlash that might arise from breaking their promise. Ultimately, though, that risk didn't hold up to the test of time, as EA's announcement in April 2019 made it clear they had gone back on their word. Starting on April 4, we are introducing Battlefield currency, which is purchased with real-world money. It is telling that the next sentence is literally dedicated to preempting criticism. The balanced rock-paper-scissors gameplay that has always been the foundation of the Battlefield series isn't going anywhere. Inside the armory, Battlefield currency can be used to acquire cosmetic customization items. Speaking of cosmetics, EA had already disappointed Deluxe Edition buyers, many of whom found the airlifts underwhelming to say the least. However, as someone who got the Deluxe Edition, I've never cared much for cosmetics as I've always felt the gameplay is much more important. I wouldn't have cared much about EA under-delivering on cosmetics as long as the game is an even playing field as they promised. But sadly, that is not the case going by the other items real-world money can acquire. Elite sets, time savers. Time savers. That doesn't sound good. Loyalists might use technicality and terminology to argue EA didn't break their promise. They didn't bring back shortcut kits, they introduced time savers. These are two different products. Are they though? If you go back and read the descriptions of any preceding Battlefield shortcuts, it becomes immediately apparent they're marketed as time-saving in exchange for an additional price. Whether you're new to Battlefield 4 or just want to make up for lost time, shortcut kits help you go toe-to-toe with Battlefield veterans by instantly unlocking powerful gear and bonuses that would otherwise be obtained through play. How are Battlefield 5's time savers different? They fulfill the same purpose, extracting additional revenue from consumers using the progression system as leverage. If they aren't any different, EA broke their promise of players cannot pay to get any unfair gameplay advantages. You will never be able to use Battlefield currency to spend real-world money to get anything that gives you an unfair gameplay advantage. Furthermore, this isn't the first time EA's used the term time savers. If you search Origin for it, you'll find two titles, both from the Need for Speed franchise. Let's look at the one for Need for Speed Rivals. Purchase the Time Savers pack to instantly own every modification and upgrade whenever you unlock and buy new cars in Need for Speed Rivals. Performance upgrades? Your car is already modified with the best of everything for instant maximum performance. Pursuit tech? Everything you can possibly use is ready to equip. The best of everything for instant maximum performance. Certainly sounds like pay to win. This is still the case even in single player. The only difference is you're not paying the publisher to win over another player. You're paying the publisher to beat the campaign. Neither is defensible. Could the time saver for Most Wanted be less objectionable? Get ahead of your friends and rivals with the Premium Time Savers pack. You'll unlock nearly every car in-game. You'll also instantly own pro mods for every car in both single player and multiplayer. No, this is worse. Much worse. Get ahead of your friends and rivals with the Premium Time Savers pack. You can't get a more brazen admission of pay to win than that. But wait, some might say, this is Need for Speed. This has nothing to do with Battlefield. Battlefield 5's time savers are completely different. Are they though? Let's look at what time savers offer in Battlefield 5. Later this spring, we'll be introducing two types of time savers that can be acquired with Battlefield currency: tier catch-ups and XP boosts. Tier catch-ups unlock chapter reward items, providing an option for those players who don't have the time to earn all those items through gameplay. If you're unfamiliar with Battlefield 5, you might wonder what chapter rewards are. Let's look at Battlefield's website for a few examples. Lightning Strikes kicks off. Its 2 weekly challenges will focus on the intensive 8 vs 8 matches of Squad Conquest. A guest starring mode available for a limited time during the second chapter. Complete them to unlock the ZK-383 submachine gun and the Model 1944 semi-automatic rifle. Hold the Line, week 3 to 4. Themed around the breakthrough and front lines. Hold the Line challenges you to learn and master these game modes in 2 new weekly challenges. There's Rockin' Final Countdown headgear and a powerful M1922 MMG in it for you if you succeed. You can skip this grind by purchasing tiered catch-ups. Let's look at the other type of time saver. XP boosts accelerate the amount of experience points you earn while you play, allowing you to reach chapter, career, weapon, vehicle or class rank at a faster pace. Many would argue this doesn't matter because they've reached the max level anyway. The immediate answer to this is XP boosts also affect weapon, vehicle and class rank. This is what progressing up these ranks gets you. As you gain career rank, you'll earn company coin and unlock vehicles to add to your company. Class rank reflects how often you play as one of the 4 classes in Battlefield 5: Medic, Recon, Assault and Support. Progression in this rank unlocks combat roles, as well as additional primary weapons, sidearms, melee weapons, gadgets and grenades within a class. Weapon and vehicle rank. Both primary weapons and vehicles have a progression system all to themselves. Earn XP while using a weapon or vehicle in battle, and you can then choose to spend company coin to unlock choices within their specializations. Each specialization path changes how a weapon or vehicle plays, so you can modify it to fit your style. For example, you can choose to improve the hipfire accuracy of an MG42 machine gun, or increase the durability of a Valentine tank. Players who have specialized their vehicles have a tangible advantage over players with no specializations. The fact that newcomers who buy time savers won't have an advantage over players who bought the game at launch isn't the point. This is a mistake, comparing newcomers to launch players like EA wants you to. To assess whether buying time savers is paying for advantages, you must compare a newcomer who has bought these boosts to a newcomer who hasn't. A newcomer who purchased these boosts will, for a significant period of time, have stronger weapons and vehicles than a newcomer who didn't buy into these microtransactions. How, you might ask? The boosted player will have quicker access to specializations that enhance their weapons and vehicles to fire faster, aim faster, be more accurate and withstand more incoming damage. Until the newcomer without these boosts catch up, the boosted newcomer will have exclusive access to specialized weapons and vehicles. Very tangible advantages that were bought with real money. Additionally, boosted players will have more weapons at their disposal, greatly increasing their versatility compared to their competition. In combat, the soldier who can better adapt to changing situations is a soldier who will survive and win on the battlefield. Battlefield currency is intended to give you another path to get soldiers, weapons and vehicles that look the way you want, and give you and your squad more ways to triumph through balanced rock, paper, scissors gameplay. Read between the lines. Battlefield currency is intended to give you and your squad more ways to triumph. And additionally, triumph through balanced rock, paper, scissors gameplay. And it's almost impressive how they wrote this next line with a straight face. The goal of fair and balanced play without pay to win is always front and center of everything we do for Battlefield 5. However, that sounds ominous. And then this. Battlefield 5 aspects covered in this article may change between now and the launch of the features. Given EA's record, change can only mean worse to come. Time savers just gave DICE an incentive to stretch the grind in order to push players towards purchasing these time savers. If they don't do it immediately, they are bound to in subsequent chapters and games. Perhaps they might wait until the introduction of these time savers has faded from players' memory before inflating the grind. Why does our time need to be saved anyway? This is EA tactically admitting the grind in their games is just a waste of our time. So much so that they wager many of us will actually pay to skip it. Unfortunately, they may be right given how they've continued to sell these. Players might say the grind in Battlefield 5 isn't even that bad. Maybe for now. EA has explicitly said it may change between now and the launch of timesavers. Besides, this is about more than just Battlefield 5. If EA gets away with introducing timesavers this time, there's nothing stopping them from adjusting the grind in the future to encourage their sales going forward. The craftiest part of this is the unquantifiable nature of Battlefield's progression makes it impossible to detect when this happens. If you can't calculate hard numbers to prove the grind is longer than it used to be, the easier it is for EA to get away with it. What's stopping them? Certainly not their own words, seeing as they went back on their promise by introducing these microtransactions in the first place. It's just a matter of time before EA puts their thumb on the scale and tweaks the grind to elicit the response they want from consumers. This inflation of progression might happen sooner rather than later, going by what an insider at EA told the Quartering.
Now, I've had a couple people from inside EA reach out to me today to give me some pretty interesting information that puts DICE LA on the hot seat, further layoffs on the horizon, and even worse information for the internal employees.
This makes no sense. DICE Stockholm is the one at fault here. They're the studio that alienated fans over and over in the months leading up to the game's launch. If any studio deserves layoffs, it's Stockholm. What has DICE LA done? Most players know of DICE LA because of their heroic rescue of Battlefield 4 after Stockholm made a mess of its launch. Don't shut LA down. Let them fix Battlefield 5. They certainly have a ton of experience in that department.
The lower than expected sales of Battlefield 5 have started to have real-world impacts on not just the employees, but the managers inside the walls of Electronic Arts. So, as some background.
The commercial failure of Anthem and the disappointing revenue from Battlefield 5 have left EA in dire straits. The publisher has cut bonuses in half and is considering laying off a significant number of their developers.
Now, word has just come down that due to the failure of Battlefield 5, which still sold many millions of copies, but the failure in the investors' eyes and in EA's eyes, as well as Anthem, they are now only funding the bonus pool for frontline workers 50%, meaning obviously your bonus at best would be half of what you were expecting.
Point is, the Quartering source states EA is hurting for money right now, which may be the reason they went back on their word and introduced timesavers. It should be noted that 2 community managers working on the Star Wars game have spoken out against the Quartering, urging the public not to believe everything they hear on YouTube. That being said, they have a vested interest in supporting their publisher. I'm more inclined to believe the Quartering. It's perfectly understandable why this source wanted anonymity. When someone tells you not to believe what someone else is saying, more often than not, it's because they're telling the truth. 10 days after EA announced the introduction of timesavers in Battlefield 5, they stated that their upcoming Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order would have no microtransactions, no loot boxes, and no, we won't be adding them. Really? Didn't you say something similar about Battlefield 5? And yet, look where we are now. Why should we believe you this time? What makes this promise any different from the one you broke just 10 days ago? Respawn, some might say. It's understandable why the gaming community has put their faith in Respawn Entertainment, given their record with Apex Legends and the Titanfall series. Indeed, some might point to Titanfall and its sequel lacking the worst of EA's monetization practices in order to bolster their trust in Respawn. However, both Titanfalls were developed and released before EA acquired Respawn, which they did in November 2017 for $455 million. A combination of cash, equity, and performance-based bonuses. Before this acquisition, Respawn's agreement with EA allowed the developers' founders, West and Zampella, to own and have full control over the intellectual property they create. The publisher declined to discuss deal terms, but a person familiar with the situation said it had the rights to publish Respawn's first game, along with the potential sequels and spin-offs. This is what Zampella said at the time. We have learned the hard way that the best way to ensure the integrity and quality of your work and make sure the fans get what they deserve is to own the intellectual property. Considering EA owns Respawn now, it's reasonable to assume the publisher has a lot more control over its post-launch monetization than they did previously. Consequently, it's inadvisable to hope Respawn can hold EA to their word. Nevertheless, some might point to another reason why EA might keep their promise this time. Fallen Order being a single-player game. Surely EA wouldn't inject microtransactions into a single-player game. Except they have, with Dead Space 3. This made them one of the earliest companies to do so, a trend which other publishers have jumped on in recent times. Before looking into these recent games, let's get back to Dead Space 3. A producer working on the game had this explanation. There's a lot of players out there, especially players coming from mobile games, who are accustomed to microtransactions. They're like, I need this now, I want this now. They need instant gratification. So we included that option in order to attract those players, so that if they're 5,000 tungsten short of this upgrade, they can have it. Games used to have a solution for this. They were called cheat codes. More importantly, they were free. Consequently, the imprint they left on player memory was a positive one. For instance, I still look back fondly on the Copper Car and Furious the Monkey Boy in Age of Empires 2. I imagine my nostalgia for this classic RTS would have been considerably soured had Microsoft charged real money for additional food, wood or stone, instead of just entering a couple of codes that have now become instantly recognisable to anyone who played the game. If EA really wanted to make Dead Space 3 accessible to mobile gamers, they could have avoided much of the controversy by just introducing them to cheat codes. Instead, they spotted an opportunity to cash in on their unfamiliarity. For $5, you could buy a bot capacity upgrade, which doubles the amount of resources, including ration seals, that each scavenger bot will deliver to you at the bench. Quickly stock up on tungsten, semiconductors, scrap metal, somatic gel and transducers. Resources can be used to craft weapon parts, consumable items and suit upgrades. Alternatively, you could instead spend that $5 on a bot personality pack, which gave a voice to your scavenger bots, or the Marauder pack, which included the Marauder suit, the triple threat pulse rifle, which is perfect for taking down dense crowds, and the J111 hydraulic eviscerator, which is sturdy enough to cut down close encounters. You could instead spend that $5 on Sharpshooter pack, featuring high impact armor for maximum protection and a modified version of the standard Seeker rifle, paired with a wide cutting line gun for achieving multiple kills in a single shot. Alternatively, Tundra Recon Pack, which includes a suit that maintains body heat under any condition, and a weapon that combines a plasma cutter and suspended ripper. Or the Witness the Truth Pack, including a suit and a modified firearm that combines an advanced assault rifle on the top with a tactical shotgun on the bottom. Or the Bot Accelerator, which decreases the harvesting time for each scavenger bot by 50%. This is a modification they could easily get for free with a trainer. For $3, you could get the Epic Weapon and Resource Pack, which contains a random assortment of weapon parts, with at least 2 guaranteed Mark V quality parts, and various crafting resources. Alternatively, you could spend $2 on an Ultra Weapon and Resource Pack, which contains a random assortment of weapon parts, with 1 guaranteed Mark V quality part and a 50% chance of another. These resource packs seem to have been removed. Better late than never, though they shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. Going by Destructoid's assessment, their inclusion had a notable impact on the game's progression. There was a microtransaction-laden system which saw crafting materials drop at a lower rate to coax players into spending money. Sure, EA has promised they won't add microtransactions later, but Battlefield 5 demonstrated that their word is worth nothing. There is another factor that may embolden EA to reintroduce microtransactions in single-player games. The gaming community has become accustomed to it over the last 3 years. Games like Middle-earth: Shadow of War, Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey have all sparked controversy because of their time-saving boosts and loot boxes with their progression being inflated to match. However, the backlash seems to be more subdued with each subsequent title that offers these time savers. The gaming community seems to have accepted this is the way now. While we can't pinpoint a reason for this, a disturbing sentiment has started to take hold in the gaming community. You miss out on the fun if you pay to skip the grind. Let's look at this comment, for example. Grinding is what makes the game fun. The sheer act of grinding your way through an assignment and unlocking an item is very satisfying and enjoyable. Paying, or in a point made prior to the quote shown above, obtaining a shortcut pack for free just eliminates most of the fun. While on the surface this may appear to discourage players from buying time savers, it downplays the impact the inclusion of these time savers can have on the progression system and makes it seem like it's no big deal. If players think it's no big deal, they won't complain when the publishers inject time savers into their upcoming games. Concurrently, they'll also want to push players towards purchasing these time savers. How might they do that? By maximising the time saved, which coincidentally is a grind in the progression system. Ergo, the mere sale of time savers eventually leads to a longer grind. This cycle, left unchecked, is what led to the notorious grind in Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is why we railed against shortcut kits in our videos on Battlefield 3 and 4, and will continue to speak out against this type of monetization in every game that uses it. The only way to prevent the inevitable inflation of the grind is to separate progression from monetization. This is why we argued, if shortcuts must exist, they should be free. However, some disagreed in the comments. What would be the fun of getting everything for free? I like grinding for my gear and feeling rewarded. So don't use the free shortcut. You would still have the choice to grind for everything. If you want to grind yet still need a price on shortcuts to deter you from using them, you need better self-control. Your preference for grinding shouldn't impose a cost on players who don't want to waste their time unlocking content in a game they've already paid full price for. Not all the comments were as diplomatic. The statement that the shortcut kit should be free was the dumbest statement of the entire video. Crying about shortcut packs again. Heh, you're fucking pathetic. You're just arguing against your own interests as a consumer, if this can even be called an argument. It's this kind of attitude that encouraged EA to keep inflating the grind and design even more extractive monetization models until the bubble burst with Battlefront 2. For proof, look no further than EA's initial response that attempted to explain why Darth Vader took 40 hours to unlock. We selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Do you understand now? EA keep pushing boundaries to see what they can get away with, until they hit the community's breaking point with Battlefront 2. This cycle could have been stopped a lot sooner, had the gaming community objected to the shortcut kits and time savers of preceding EA titles. This is why it's important to challenge progression-based microtransactions whenever and wherever they pop up. This is why this video was made. To stop the cycle EA is restarting by introducing time savers in Battlefield 5. Even if they are harmless now, history shows this is a gateway to more extortionate practices. So please help spread awareness of this by sharing this video.